The overnight shift had its own rhythm, and Nora Chen had learned it the way her body learned sleep, gradually, then all at once. At 3 a.m., the line went quiet. 4 car sets on a 15-minute headway, the control room screens settling from the crowded tangle of rush hour into something you could hold in your mind. She knew her operators by now, the ones who checked in on the half hour, the ones who ran silent through the terminal at Callahan, the ones whose trains she tracked by the blue dots that moved through the schematic like blood cells through a vessel. The predictive maintenance panel sat in the lower right corner of her primary display. She'd stopped looking at it consciously weeks ago, the way you stop hearing the constant low tone of the power supply behind you. Door motors, latch sensors, current draw on the door operators, dwell time patterns. The system generated a confidence score, 0 to 100, and most of the time it was noise. A passenger holding a door button, a sensor that drifted after reset. The thousand small ways a 20-year-old train set reminded you it was old. But the scores that mattered were the ones that climbed. She'd seen the pattern on train 417 twice in the past week, both times late in the outbound run as the set approached Callahan, the terminal, the far end of the line where the operators turned the trains back and the system ran its overnight reset. Both times, the confidence score climbed to 63, then 67. Both times, the mechanics pulled the cars, checked the door operators, tested the latch sensors, and found nothing actionable. Probably sensor drift, her supervisor had said the first time. We've seen it on the older sets. The second time, he'd said nothing. Just shrugged when she showed him the screen. At 5:42 a.m., the score hit 61. Nora watched it. The train was at Harmon, the third station from Callahan. The morning rush would start at 6:15, 33 minutes from now, when the service change kicked in and the line went from 4-car sets to 6, from 15-minute headways to 8. Train 418 was behind it, 4 minutes out. Train 419 behind that. If she pulled 417 now, she'd hold 418 and 419. She'd have to explain the delay to passengers who were already standing on the platform in the gray pre-dawn, already checking their phones, already running late. Dispatch to 417. A pause. Then, 417, go ahead. Your predictive score is climbing. 61 and rising. I'm showing all green on your panel? Checking, yeah, all doors showing closed and latched. Score was 42 at Callahan on the turnaround. Nora looked at the screen. The score held at 64, then dropped to 58. Copy. Let's see what it does on the inbound run after the turnback. If it comes back up past 65, I'll have maintenance meet you at Callahan. Copy dispatch. Holding 1 minute at Harmon and proceeding. She logged it. Timestamp, train ID, score. Her recommendation. The operator's response. The system saved everything automatically, but she kept her own log. Cleaner, easier to read when the reports came later. The score stayed below 60 through Callahan. At 5:58, train 417 left Callahan for the inbound run. Harmon, Ridge, then Central, the first major hub of the morning. At 6:04, it hit 71. At 6:08, it hit 70. Nora's hand was on the radio. Her thumb rested on the talk button, but she didn't press it. The train was between Ridge and Central. 2 minutes from the platform, 3 from the first rush hour crowd. If she pulled it now, she'd disrupt the line. The trains behind would bunch. The dispatchers would have to reroute, hold trains, explain the delay to a platform full of people who were already thinking about their meetings and their coffee. The score had been high before. The mechanics had found nothing. She'd already called maintenance twice this week. They'd started looking at her differently, not hostile, but the way mechanics look at controllers who keep calling them out for nothing. The score dropped to 72. She let it run. The call came at 6:17. Dispatch, this is Central Platform. We have a door issue on inbound 417. Car 4, second door from the front. Nora heard the background noise, the murmur of passengers, the crackle of radio traffic from other channels. The platform announcement cut off mid-word. Then she heard something else. A raised voice, not screaming but the kind of tone that happens when a crowd is holding its breath. What kind of issue? The doors, they closed, but there was a hesitation. A bad one. The platform agent's voice had a crack in it. Some passenger's stuff got caught in the gap. The door bounced, tried again. It closed, but for a second there nobody knew if there's anyone hurt. That's what we're checking. We're holding the train on the platform. Some passengers are refusing to board. We're doing a full platform clear. Copy. Is the all doors closed indication returning? That's what the operator's checking now. Nora was already reaching for the supervisor line. She dialed, waited, explained. The words came out in the flat, practice cadence she'd learned for incident reports. Time, train, location, nature of event, current status, actions taken. Her voice sounded like someone else's. Her headset had been pressing her left ear flat for 6 hours. She could feel the shape of it in her cheekbone when she reached up to adjust it. When she hung up, the predictive maintenance panel was still showing 78. It stayed there for 9 minutes. Then it dropped to 0. The next hour arrived in pieces, and each piece didn't quite fit with the others. At 6:22, the platform agent came on the radio again. Dispatch Central. The passenger whose stuff got caught. I'm not sure now if it was their bag or their arm. They were trying to get on late, and the door was... I think the bag was caught, but it could have been... Anyway, nobody's hurt. We're cycling the doors before we release. Some passengers are pretty shaken. The word pretty was doing too much work. Nora logged it anyway. At 6:31, the operator of 417 came on. Dispatch, 417. My panel showed all green the entire time. I watched the doors in the mirror, they closed normal. The hesitation was so fast I couldn't even tell you which leaf. The platform called me before I knew there was a problem. The door had closed normal on his panel. The door had hesitated in real life. Both things were true. At 6:38, the first mechanic arrived at Central. Not the same mechanics who had checked the train twice. He reported on the radio. Dispatch. We found elevated current draw on the car 4-door operator. Not a fault yet. But the signature's there if you know to look. Not a fault. Not yet. A signature. You could see it in the log if you knew to look. The train was pulled from service. A replacement set was brought in. Service resumed, bunched and delayed, the trains behind running 4 minutes late until the dispatchers could smooth the flow. At 7:15, Nora sat with her incident report form open on her desk. The fields were simple. Time. Train. Location. Nature of event. Actions taken. Root cause. She had written the first 4 easily. The 5th was practice. The 6th was where the word stopped working. She typed, door hesitation at Central Station. No injuries. Train removed from service. Then she tried to add what the system had shown, and the words came out wrong every time. Predictive maintenance flagged elevated confidence score prior to event. Too clean. System indicated door fault probability above threshold but below actionable level. Too bureaucratic. Door showed pre-failure signature on current draw. Too certain. Controller elected not to intervene based on prior false positives. Too blame-shaped and not quite right anyway. She hadn't elected not to intervene. She had elected to wait. She deleted the root cause field. She would leave it for her supervisor to fill in. At 7:45, her supervisor came by. Staff report filed, he said. Operations will review. You did everything by the book. She nodded. The system flagged it, he added. That's what it's supposed to do. You can't catch everything. The system flagged it twice before, she said. And both times the mechanics found nothing. He shrugged. That's the system for you. She went back to her screen. The predictive maintenance panel had reset. Train 417 was gone from the display. Pulled, tagged, out of service. The other trains moved through the schematic in their ordinary patterns, their blue dots carrying their ordinary loads of passengers who didn't know what had happened at Central, who didn't know about the score that had climbed to 78 and dropped to 0, who were thinking about their meetings and their schedules and their coffee. The score on her panel read 0. She watched it anyway. She knew she would keep watching it. At 8:00, she walked through the maintenance bay on her way to the employee lot. The door operators from Train 417 sat on a cart against the wall. Gray metal housings, the kind you'd recognize if you'd ever stood too close to a closing train door. One of the mechanics was taking one apart, the screws laid out on a tray in careful order. Current draw was up, he said, looking up. Just slightly. You could see it in the log if you knew to look. Did you see it before? He shook his head. We checked the usual. Sensors were clean. Latches were fine. We didn't open the operator until after. She nodded. She didn't ask anything else. She looked at the door operator on the cart. The housing was open now, the inner workings exposed. Small motor, some gears. She thought about the score on her screen, climbing, and then the reset to 0. Back in the control room, the line would still be moving through the schematic in its ordinary pattern, blue dots flowing station to station like blood cells through a vessel. In the lower right corner, the predictive maintenance panel would be sitting at 0. The score had been there all along. Rising, falling, telling her what it could and couldn't. And she had learned not to see it. Now it was the only thing she could see. The empty field where root cause sat waiting for someone to write something that would make the event mean less than it did.